Viewers, welcome back to Youth Wednesdays on Tobago Updates. As promised, we have a lively interview session for you this morning. We start off with Hesma WarnerThomas. She is a freelance artist and she's here to speak to us about her work and appreciating art on a whole. She's also going to dive into some questions, like a lot of questions that the public normally has towards artists, and she will be able to answer them this morning. But first off, I just want to ask Hesma, who is Hesma?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Hesma.
And once again, my name is Hesma WarnerThomas. And I have quite a journey in this life to bring me to this point. I work CPEP on a morning. I'm a checker there. Right. I've done grocery work. Meaning when I say grocery work, I've cashed, I've worked in the back, I've worked on the lanes and so on and so forth. I went to Mobile, I went to secondary school. That's where my art journey began.
Okay.
I always loved drawing, loved painting. And as time, life takes different challenges, takes a different route. And for my whole life, I just adapted to whatever comes my way. I've studied law. I was at diploma level, but when we were to go to the bachelor's, the school no longer offered that option.
Okay.
So I had a choice to make, and I decided to go the personal route. Right? But other than that, art was always my passion, always underneath everything. So from time to time, I will dive into my work. But I must say, being an artist is one of the most rewarding things you could do in life. There are various types of artists, right? My work is more freelance, meaning that I paint from my heart.
Okay.
I just put paint on the canvas and create. Sometimes some of my creation, like the one on the screen, that one came from Speyside.
Okay.
That was my inspiration from Speyside, the jetty.
Okay.
So I just painted. It's a long time I've been there. This one I just decided I'm working with these colors, the green, the black, and so on and so forth, and I just created. I do not sketch anything. Everything is brush.
All right.
Right? This one, I was just thinking of flying over the ocean. And I just created this one. How would the sea look hitting on rocks, from the sky? So this was purely imaginative. And this one is where we work, down at Buku. Always watching the sea, always watching the jetty and, that extension come out there. And I decided to put it on a canvas.
So you're saying that most of your inspiration really comes from being outdoors, where you work, where you visit. You said you started at Laventille High School.
Yes.
Right, and that really pushed you into the art world.
Right.
And then you're saying that life tossed you into certain circumstances and you chose the personal way out.
Right.
Aside from life and what it did or whatever happened, what was your inspiration really to put brush to canvas and decide to start?
Well, it was more like an overwhelming desire.
Okay.
It's something deep within me to, I don't know, just when I start to paint, I just forget everything dissolves. Because when you paint a painting, well, I can speak for me. I'm not sure if it's the same with other artists. But when you sit in front of a canvas, there is no limit. There is no restrictions, yes. You just paint from your heart. Whatever comes to you, whatever inspires you. Sometimes you might curve your brush a certain way, and you just like how it flows, and you just continue from there. So it comes from inside. And, sometimes when you're going through certain stuff too, sometimes and you put it on the canvas. There's something captured that could never be done again. Because that's the next thing with my pieces. Every piece is never replicated.
Okay.
Once you have one, well, this one was always in my mind. And I just decided to paint it. And I was excited with it, how it came out, you know, but
this actually looks really nice.
thank you.
Yeah.
This also at Boko?
No, that's just from my mind.
Okay.
I thought this was healing with horses, you know,
They actually helped me
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of bringing me to this point.
Mm.
I went to them with some of my work and they asked me why I now coming with this, why I didn't tell them about it for a while. And I let them know I have been painting for years. It's just that I had them in a barrel at home. And I always thought I wasn't good enough to bring it out. And they were like, no, you don't ever say that about yourself. So they are part of the reason why when I started back, I started with a vengeance, you know. And they introduced me to Miss Barb at Things Natural in Crown Point. And there's where you would find my work displayed and sold. And there are other wonderful artists there as well. So, you know, I find when people look at your paintings, you know, someone will tell you, well, why I didn't put this or why I didn't put that. Painting is not about why you didn't put anything. It's about a
What
connection.
Yeah.
It's how you see the world and how you want to put it on a canvas. It doesn't matter if it looks like what it's supposed to look like or it doesn't, because it comes from inside. And sometimes the image that you may have in your mind, somebody else mightn't see that way, but it would speak to somebody else.
Yeah.
So art speaks to everybody in its own language. So when you look at a piece of work that somebody has spent how many time doing, it's not about what they didn't do. Appreciate what you see, because that is part of that person.
Okay.
All right. So, you know, how do you handle the overwhelming creativity in your mind? I mean, certainly not everything that comes to mind, you put brush to canvas.
Exactly.
How do you tailor your pieces, and do you just do this as a leisure activity or just as a hobby, or this is something that you live by?
This is like a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
and it's also done in my leisure time.
Okay.
However, that may be permitted sometimes. But I would say it's more something personal.
Okay.
Because for me, when I look around, you see people live and they die, right? We know that's a part of life.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I always ask myself is, what am I leaving behind? What is my legacy? When I am gone, what would I be remembered for? And this is one of the things that I want to leave behind. It's like a footprint that I was here. And it's something that cannot be erased.
Right.
It is something that once you have a piece of it, you have a piece of me forever. It's something that my children could pass on to my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I don't know how far down it could go. It's like Picasso. When Picasso started his line drawings, they didn't appreciate it. They find it was weird. And now for you to own one of Picasso painting, you have to be a multi-millionaire.
Yeah.
So it's really deep for me.
So as we're on the topic of Picasso became a multi-millionaire, and his pieces are still being sold
Yes.
for a lot of money today. Is it your intention to get into the business, to make this your business and your livelihood? And
Yes.
what are some of the moves you're making toward that thrust?
Well, that is the ultimate goal. So, being one of my footsteps in that direction,
Okay.
I hope one day to have an exhibition, and hopefully another day to have my own studio where I could put on shows, not just for myself, but for upcoming artists, because there's a lot of artists that are very young and they have the talent, but they don't know how to channel it or where to go or how to start, because I struggled for a long time trying to access, how do I get out there? How do people see my work? How do I get better than I am? Because with art, there's always room for growth.
Right.
You know, every time you paint a painting is a step further into the direction of perfection, but we are never perfect, you know. And when I look at life and the opportunities, I don't want to waste a second of it, because as I just tell my kids all the time, and my family, we don't know how long we have here, right? You hear people asking for long life, or what you're really doing with that life. So for me, I want this to be my legacy. So hopefully one day could even reach places that I never went. You know, maybe Ghana, Africa, you know.
So Dwayne spoke to where you want to be in the future, future Picasso, right?
Right.
But at present, what is it like in terms of your support, in terms of your income for your art?
Right. Well, in terms of my income, as I said, I have put paintings, at Things Natural, Ground Point to be sold. I also advertise on my personal page. I have to set up a page just for my work, right? So that I'm in the process of doing that. I also want to make sure that I have work to submit. You know, I don't want to just say I'm going to do and just not do the work behind it. So I'm in the process of making sure that I have the painting. So whenever that happens, I can really launch myself, right? Also, I'm planning to see if I can locate a place as soon as possible. I don't know how soon in the future, to have an exhibition, as I mentioned before, not just with myself, with at least 3 other artists of my caliber, you know, where we could showcase our work. We are new to the market, so we want to put ourselves out there, show what we can do, right, and add to the beautification of Tobago and the tourism, because, you know, right now, I think the tourism is really struggling if you really look at what's happening in Tobago, and we have a lot here to offer. Right?
All right. So in terms of in terms of if I ask you, let me be bold. I wanted to put it in nice words, but I'll just be bold with it. If I ask you to paint a picture for me, like a personal picture for me, how do I go about doing that? What is your contact information? How do I explain to you what I'd like to see on the canvas? And do you actually do things like that for people?
Well, that is something I have been looking at because I've been asked. I've never done it before, but I always like a challenge. So I'm up for it. And you can contact me by my cell phone,
Right.
495-4581. And we can see how best we can work together.
Because I'm seeing that you're really good at capturing a specific moment, I would say.
Right.
You know, a friend of mine is getting married.
Nice.
I know people do I know people do this thing where the artist comes and they look at the one special scene in the wedding and they will paint that.
A friend of
you
yours
know.
is getting married.
Yes,
Okay,
Dwayne.
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Dwayne. A lot of people getting married in this season, you know. Yeah, so that's what I'm asking, you know. Do you do that kind of work? I know a lot of artists are branching into that aspect. So would you
Yes.
see yourself doing things like that in
No
the future?
problem, I will do it. And I will work with the person to select the correct picture because we want the proper lighting and all those things. All those things tell how your painting will come out. You know, a lot of times we take pictures and we don't study the lighting.
Right.
You know, the eyes. If you could capture the eyes on a canvas, you will lose yourself in there. So everything else wouldn't really matter. There must be a strong point in your canvas, you know. So, yeah.
My question to you is, what's some of the challenges you face in ensuring, well, when you do your paintings or in this journey as being a freelance artist, how do you maneuver those challenges?
Oh, well, I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of affirmations. And I will myself to success.
Right. And what are some of those challenges that you put those things toward in ensuring that you overcome and you persevere?
One of the biggest challenge I would say is getting your work recognized, getting a painting sold, because paintings aren't food. And with the economy we have now, a lot of people is under a lot of strain.
Right.
So you have to be patient, you know. And then, as I said before, people have a tendency to look at a painting and it speaks to them and they will purchase it. The only how this happens is once your paintings are being seen, it's out there, right? So for me, it's a patience game. You know, it's also about making sure that your work is there. It's also about having the courage to continue painting, even though you may not have the funds for the other paintings, but that's okay. You know, you work around it, you find ways of continuing. I spoke to Mr. Leroy Clark. I'm sure those of the art will remember him. He used to do abstract
He
painting.
passed away.
Yeah,
He
he
was
passed
really,
away,
really, really renowned. A
unfortunately.
real strong, rugged
Right.
fella.
I had a
Yeah.
conversation with him at one time when I was young going to school. And he told me, you know, in this field, we don't really get much recognition as a beginner, but you must persevere. The greatest ones, he said, persevere, they worked. They put in the work. And so once you're willing to put in the work and do the sacrifices, you will make it.
So, in addition to what Mr. Leroy would have told you in his time being here, what advice do you have to young artists coming up, getting into this field specifically?
Love what you do. Once you love what you do, there's no stopping you. Take courage. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? And once you persevere, you will make it. Do the work. Because what you think is your greatest piece, you ain't even touch the surface as yet. And keep thinking every piece is a masterpiece.
Right.
And you will get there.
That's good advice. Dwayne, if you want to start painting, there's your advice there.
I think I'm very much too late.
No, it's never too late. It's never too late. It's never ever
I
too
agree
late.
with you, but certainly it is for me. But you know, my last question to you is, what is next for you? You know, you're here, you're developing your product. What is next for you? What can we see in the coming months, in the coming year? You know, coming from you as a freelance artist as you develop this craft.
As I said, I hope to put on an exhibition soon. And in that exhibition, I would display the work that I've done so far and hopefully more work, right? I'm looking at more of our Tobago lovely beaches. And as you said, I could probably do some with, you know, weddings and different stuff with people. Although with people, it's challenging because everybody's face is unique and everybody has their own
You just gotta
beauty.
focus on the two faces for the wedding.
Yes,
Forget
yes.
other people.
Yes, you know, so everybody's face is very unique and it may not always come out exactly like the person, but you want to capture the spirit of that person. And that is what I hope to transfer in my paintings in the coming future.
Okay. All right. So, Hesma, I want to thank you so much for being with us here this morning, telling
Thank
us
you.
about your work, telling us about who Hesma is, what we can expect from Hesma in the future. I mean, we've seen her pieces, so she has offered to do those freelance photos for you, whether it be wedding, you know, any type of celebration that you may have upcoming. Hesma is here to be at your needs in terms of paintings. All right, so from us here at Youth Wednesdays on Tobago Updates, I just want to tell you thank you for being with us here this morning.
It was my pleasure.
Yes. All right. So viewers, we're on to our next interview, but before we get to that, Dwayne, what do they do? Share the life, share the life, share the life. We'll be right back.